The rolling element bearings are option A hydrostatic bearings, skews film bearings, anti-friction bearings, grease lubrication bearings. So bearings are classified into sliding contact and rolling contact bearings. Sliding contact bearings are channel bearings, but rolling contact bearings are roller bearings, ball bearings, and needle bearings are the examples are rolling contact bearings. They are called as anti-friction bearings because it has very low coefficient of friction, which is it is in the order of 0.001 0.001. So they are called as anti-friction bearings. Rolling element bearings are ball bearing, roller bearings, and needle bearings are called as anti-friction bearings. Option is C. Ball bearings. So there is an inner race and outer race. So this is called inner ring. Okay, inner ring and outer ring. Inner ring or race which fits in the shaft. Okay, inner ring is connected to the shaft, and inner ring is usually it is stationary, and outer ring is which fits inside the housing. If outer ring is fits inside the housing, inner ring is rotating. Okay, ball and roller arranged between the surfaces of two races. Between the inner race and outer race, the balls and rollers are fitted. Okay, so a cage. This is a cage. A cage separates the balls or rollers from one another. Okay, there is a retaining ring. That retaining ring which keeps the balls inside the races, inside the cages. Okay, so this is inner race and this is inner race and this is outer race, the balls. Okay, so they are called as ball bearing. If rollers are used, they are called as roller bearings. Okay, so Teflon is used for bearings because of options: low coefficient of friction, better heat dissipation, smaller space consideration, all of these. But the option is low coefficient of friction. Teflon has low coefficient of friction, so it has been used in bearings. Ball and roller bearings in comparison to sliding bearings have options: more accuracy in alignment, small overall dimensions, low starting and running frictions, all of these. So ball and roller bearings have all the options are correct. They have more accuracy in alignment, they have small in dimension, they have low starting and running friction. So option D is correct. The next question: the ball bearings are usually made from, so they are made from, options are low carbon steel, medium carbon steel, high speed steel, chrome nickel steel. They are made from chrome nickel steel. Option is D. Next question: the ball bearing, what is asked is life in million revolutions. Okay, life in million revolutions. So life in million revolutions. So there are the two things are very important for the design of design of rolling contact bearings. One is the load. Okay, dynamic equivalent load W equal to X into V into WR. WR is a radial load, WA is a axial load, and Y is a axial load factor, and X is a radial load factor, V is the race rotation factor. Okay, W is a combination of radial load plus axial load. So after determining this W, you can determine the dynamic load rating. Okay, dynamic load rating, it is based on the formula C equal to W equal to X into V into WR plus Y into WA. So W into L by 10 power 6. 10 power 6 is 1 million revolutions because it is subjected to fatigue loading. 1 million revolutions is taken. L by 10 power 6 power 1 by K. So K equal to 3 for ball bearings, 10 by 3 for roller bearings. Okay, so K, so this formula is used. C equal to W into C equal to W. Okay, so L is asked in the problem. So L equal to C by W. So here L power 1 by 3. So if it comes this side, it becomes C by W power cube. Okay, C by W power cube. So C by W. So life is asked in the problem, rating life. So L equal to, here for ball bearing it is 1 by 3. So if it comes in this side, left side, it will become C by W power cube. So C by W power cube. So C by W equal to C equal dynamic capacity. Dynamic capacity is 18,000 and W load is, static load is 5,500 Newton. So which is equal to 3.27 cube into 10 power 6. Which is equal to 3.27 cube is, it is 35 into 10 power 6. 3.27 into 3 is equal to 35 into 10 power 6. So bearing, what is asked is bearing equivalent ratio. Bearing load ratio is 3.27 and life is 35. So option B is correct. The rated life of a bearing varies inversely as a cube of the load. Okay, the rated life of the bearing varies inversely as a cube of the load. Okay, it is cube of the load, but it is inversely to the cube of the load. The rated life of the bearing varies inversely as the cube of the load. Option C is correct. The life of a ball bearing is inversely proportional to, okay, life of a ball bearing is the same question. So life of a ball bearing is C by W power cube. Okay, because C equal to W into L by 10 power 6 power 1 by 3. So life equal to C by W power cube. Okay, life of a ball bearing is inversely proportional to load cube. Okay, option B is correct. If the equivalent load here in the L10 life of the bearing is asked, here L10 life equal to, okay, L10 life equal to C by W cube. Okay, C by W cube. C equal to dynamic load rating. Dynamic load rating is 60 to 500. Load is 500 cube. Okay, C by W power cube. So C by W is 1.25 cube. 1.25 into 3. Okay, 1.25 into 1.25 equal to almost 1.5, and 1.5 into 1.25 is equal to almost 1.953. Without using calculator, you can say that it is 1.953 million revolutions. Okay. In the dynamic load, next question, dynamic load capacity of ball bearing is increased to 1.5 times its earlier value without changing its equivalent load. The life of the bearing increases to, so load is increased to 1.5 times. So load is increased to 1.5 times. So it will become that is load is increased to 1.5 times. So 1.5 into power cube equal to 3.4 times its earlier life. Next question, if the load on the ball bearing is halved, its life, okay, life equal to C by W power cube. So load is halved, so W becomes W by 2. So the 2 comes to the numerator. Okay, so 2 cube, which is equal to 8, increases 8 times. So option D is correct. The tapered roller bearings can take, so they can take both radial and axial load in bearings, and this is a radial load. Along the radius this load is acting, so it is a radial load. Along the axis the load is acting, it is an axial load. So the tapered roller bearings can take radial load as well as axial load. So option C is correct. Okay, then match the following. Then it is IES 97 question. Tapered roller bearing carrying both radial and thrust loads. Q is 3. Okay, Q is 3. And ball bearings, okay, they can carry only light loads. P is 2. Option P for option 2 is 2. Ball bearings, it can carry only light loads. Then spherical roller bearings R. So it has the self-aligning property. Spherical roller bearings have the self-aligning property. And needle roller bearings, it can carry heavy loads with oscillatory motion. Needle roller bearings can carry heavy loads. Okay, yes, 1. Next question, match the components. Okay, tapered roller bearings. Tapered roller bearings, you know, tapered roller bearings, it can carry radial and axial load Q2. Okay, deep groove ball bearing, it can carry only radial load or thrust load. Any one load it can carry, radial load or axial load, only one load. Deep groove ball bearing, mainly it is used for radial load. So P1. Self-aligning bearings. Okay, self-aligning bearings, mainly radial load with axial misalignment. Okay, self-aligning, it will align self by the name itself. It can carry misalignment, so mainly radial load with axial misalignment. Thrust bearings, it can carry only axial load. Okay, deep groove ball bearing radial load, thrust bearing, it can carry only axial load. A combination of radial and thrust load is taken by, okay, it is usually by tapered roller bearing, but here it's not given. So radial and thrust load is taken by deep groove. So option A is correct. So because roller bearing can carry only radial or thrust load, okay, deep groove and the tapered bearings for it can be used for taper or combination of radial and thrust load. Okay, deep groove ball bearings as well as tapered roller bearings can be used for combination of radial and thrust load. So option A is correct. In thrust bearings, the load acts along the axis of the direction. Okay. In thrust bearing, the load acts along the axis of rotation. Along the axis of rotation, option A is correct. The piston pin bearings in heavy duty diesel engines are needle roller bearings. The piston pin bearings in heavy duty diesel engines are needle roller bearings. So it is not tapered roller bearings, spherical roller bearing or cylindrical roller bearings. It is a needle roller bearing. Okay. Then dash is an anti-friction bearing. Okay. Here options: needle bearing, it is an anti-friction bearing; pedestal bearing is a sliding contact bearing; collar bearing is a sliding contact bearing; journal bearing is a sliding contact bearing. So option A is correct. Then next matching: hydrodynamic journal bearings. Okay. So it can carry heavy loads. Okay. Hydrodynamic tapered roller bearing, option R. Option R, it can carry both radial and thrust load combined. Radial and axial load. Axial load is thrust load. It can carry radial load as well as axial load. So option R is 1. Okay. Then hydrodynamic journal bearings. So it can carry only radial load. Hydrodynamic journal bearing can carry only radial load. Then rectangular hydrostatic bearings. It can carry only thrust loads. Okay. Hydrostatic bearings, it can carry only thrust loads. Angular contact ball bearings, so they can medium to low radial and thrust load combined. Okay, angular contact ball bearing, it can carry medium to low radial and thrust load combined. Okay, but the tapered roller bearing can carry high radial and thrust load combined. Consider the following statements in consideration with thrust bearings. Okay, so 1 and 4 are correct. Okay, the cylindrical thrust bearings have higher coefficient of friction than ball thrust bearings. Lower race, outer race and retainer are separable in thrust bearings. Okay, tapered rollers cannot be employed for thrust bearings. It is wrong. Double throw thrust bearings are not visible. It is wrong. So 1 and 4 are correct. Option D is correct. The type of failure which occurs in ball bearing is fatigue failure. Option B is correct. The cage is not required in needle roller bearings. Okay, cage is not required in needle roller bearings. Option B is correct. Deep groove ball bearings are used for combined radial and thrust loads at high speeds. Okay, so deep groove ball bearing as well as tapered roller bearings can be used for combined radial and thrust loads at high speeds. Okay, this is a deep groove ball bearing. Then the rating life of a group of apparently identical bearings is defined as number of revolutions are exceeded before the first evidence of crack by 90% of the bearings of the group. Okay, option C is correct. Okay, so the before 90% of the bearings in the group, first evidence of crack will occur on the 90% of the bearings of the group. Option C is correct. Which is not a type of rolling contact bearing. That is deep groove ball bearing is a rolling contact bearing, cylindrical roller bearing is a rolling contact bearing, spherical roller bearing is a rolling contact bearing. Option C is wrong. Okay, option C is a sliding contact bearing. Okay, so option C is correct, which is not a rolling contact bearing. All the three A, B and D are rolling contact bearing. Option C is wrong. Thank you.